Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
Houston ACR, we have you loud and clear. How us?
Loud and clear. Please stand by for opening remarks.
Greetings from Louisiana. I'm Dr. Clint Coleman, the Program Administrator of LaSTEM, Louisiana STEM Education Workforce Initiative. LaSTEM consists of 9 regional STEM centers strategically located throughout Louisiana, connecting citizens with workforce opportunities that align with the demands of the 21st century. Today we are at the NASA Astro camps in Lake Charles, Louisiana. This year our camp hosted over 5,000 campers at more than 70 different locations. It is with great enthusiasm that we are hosting our very first downlink event in the state, giving our campers a unique experience they won't soon forget. Now, without further ado, let's move on to our first question.
Hi, my name is Hannah, and my question is, what does it feel like in a spacesuit?
Hey, Dr. Coleman and all the students of LaSTEM, and especially Lake Charles, Louisiana, welcome to the International Space Station. And Woody just did a spacewalk, so I'm going to give him the mic and let him tell you about that, Hannah.
Hey, Hannah. It's a great question. So the spacesuit is very large and bulky. We pressurized the spacesuit to about 4.3 pounds per square inch pressure above the vacuum of space outside. And because it's pressurized, it's fairly stiff and rigid. And so it's a little awkward to move around in. Your gloves are like big balloons, and so it takes a little bit of force to squeeze your hands and use them. But one of the good things is we get to experience this in something called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, through a lot of training. And so we're very used to these sensations, and it's actually, with all that training, it's a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Elijah. My question is how you sleep.
Hey, Elijah. You know what? We sleep really well in space because you don't have any pressure points. You just kind of float. And so where we actually sleep, it's called crew quarters, and it's about the size of a phone booth. And in there, we have a sleeping bag, and it actually hangs on the wall because it doesn't really, we don't really sleep on the sleeping bag. We just sleep in the sleeping bag, and it keeps us in place. And if you've ever seen an ultrasound of a baby in the womb where they just kind of hang out with their knees up and their arms like that, your body tends to relax in that position. And so that's kind of what we look like. So the sleeping bag just keeps us in place while we float in our crew quarters.
Hi, my name is Ella, and my question is, do you have a goal on the space station, and have you achieved it?
Hey, Ella, that is a great question. Let's see. I think back to mission control, where our flight controllers are operating the space station every day. And a lot of times they talk about their 3 biggest priorities, which are crew safety, vehicle safety, and mission success. And I kind of think of my goals in the same way. So making decisions that are going to keep us safe up here, taking care of the beautiful International Space Station, and then doing all the interesting science that's really our purpose up here. And so trying to do all 3 of those in that order is what I aim to do up here, and I think we've been pretty successful so far.
Hi, my name is Ella. My question is, how does it feel to walk in space?
Hey, Ella. Well, you know, I'll tell you about kind of 2 ways that we walk in space. So when we're outside doing a spacewalk, we actually use our hands because you're using rails to translate or walk from one place to the other to do your work. And your feet just kind of dangle. All for about 7 or 8 hours that you're doing the spacewalk, they just kind of sit there. And unless you need to use what's called an APFR, and that's where you kind of lock your feet in to help you keep you in place. But otherwise, we use our hands to do spacewalks. But in here, where we have our own little environment and we're kind of floating around without a spacesuit, we use both our hands and our feet. So we'll use our hands to get ourselves going, and then your feet you clip in by just kind of putting your toes underneath handrails. And we still call them handrails, even though for the most part they're foot rails. And you use your feet because that way it allows your hands to be free to do your work. Just like what he said, we have a lot of science to do up here, and so you need your hands to do all that work. And so we use our feet to keep us in place so that we don't float off all day.
Hi, my name is James. My question is, what is your favorite thing to do in space?
Hey, James, that's a great question, and for me, that's an easy one. So far, my very favorite thing has been spacewalking, going outside the space station to do some repairs. In my case, I got to do 2 spacewalks, installing some new solar arrays up here, and it was just a really, really satisfying, fulfilling experience.
Hi, my name is Blake. My question is, how do you all replenish oxygen on a space station?
Hey, Blake, that's a great question because unfortunately we don't have a lot of trees up here in the space station, and but it is crucial, of course, that we keep oxygen here so that we can live. And so we have really one primary way, and that's called electrolysis. So our life support system takes the carbon dioxide out of the air so that it keeps it clean, and then to generate new oxygen, we split water molecules, and we just use an electrical current, and that breaks up the water molecule, which, as you know, is H2O, and we get rid of the hydrogen, and we keep the oxygen, and that's how we breathe up here.
Hi, my name is Kennedy, and my question is, what are the types of tasks that you must do on the space station daily?
Hey, Kennedy, that is a great question. One of my favorite things up here is actually the variety, in the sense that every day is different. One day we might be spacewalking, another day we might be doing science, another day we might be doing maintenance. But there are a few things that we do almost every single day. We sleep, we eat, we got to go to the bathroom. We have a couple conferences every day with our control teams around the world. We have one called the Morning Daily Planning Conference and one called the Evening Daily Planning Conference, and that's just a chance to sync up with control teams. And then the final one that we spend a lot of time on is exercising. We need to stay strong for our return to Earth, and so we spend about 2.5 hours every day doing resistance exercise as well as cardiovascular exercise.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and my question is, what's the coolest thing or trick you can do in space that's not possible here on Earth?
Hey, Jonathan. Well, I think all of us love to just float around. And I'll tell you about a fun game that we play. We call it astronaut bowling. But instead of trying to hit stuff, you're actually trying really hard not to hit anything. And we start on one end of the space station, and we push ourselves off, and we see how far we can get before we bump into anything. And anything that you touch lightly, right, because we don't really want to be bumping into anything really hard because there's a lot of important electronics and life support items up here. So essentially, wherever you first touch something is where you're called out. And then whoever gets the furthest that day wins. So that's a lot of fun. Most of us can make it 10 to 20 feet, but sometimes you go all the way from where Crew Dragon is at the very front of the station all the way to the end of the USOS module at Node 1, which is where we eat. And that's probably about 100 feet. That's a pretty good round of astronaut bowling.
Hi, my name is Carter, and my question is, what happens if you sneeze in space?
Hey, Carter. It turns out sneezing up here is actually really similar to on Earth. It feels just the same, and just like on Earth, you don't want to maybe sneeze in front of other people and have them risk getting hit with your sneeze. So we try to be polite about it. Maybe sneeze into a tissue or into your arm, and make sure that it doesn't go off flying around up here.
Hi, my name is Julia, and my question is, how does the lack of gravity affect how you plan your day in space?
Hey, Julia. That's a great question, and it kind of lets us talk about something as far as a slight misconception. So we actually do have gravity up here. What we don't have is called G-loading. And that's so we have about 90% of the Earth's gravity still present at this altitude, which is about 250 miles above the surface of the Earth. But the space station is going so fast that we're essentially matching the curvature of the Earth at this altitude. So at about 250 miles, going 17,000 miles per hour, even though we're constantly falling, we're falling at the same rate as the curvature of the Earth. So if you think about a ride, or when you go to an amusement park and you go up and over a hill, you feel that lack of G loading. Or if you're lucky enough to be on a plane and you do a negative G maneuver, you'll feel the same effect, where you kind of feel your stomach come up. But here we don't have that sensation because we're in a steady state of falling, essentially. But yeah, so essentially we are just perpetually falling around the Earth. 15 times a day we go around the Earth because we're going so fast. And so all of that to say, we don't have a lack of gravity, but we do have a lack of that sensation of gravitational force, or what we call G-loading. And so because of that, like I said, we have to use our feet a lot to keep ourselves in place. We have to do things like using the restroom, right? Everyone wonders how we do that. And since you don't have gravity help you out, we essentially use airflow to create air movement and a vacuum to help things move in the right direction. So yeah, it just kind of helps you, or you have to use creative ways to make up for that lack of sensation of gravity. But we've been doing this for 23 years, and so we've got it pretty well down. And every time a new crew comes up, we just teach ourselves or each other those tips, and we keep on working.
Hi, my name is Aurora, and my question is, what do liquids look like and how do you drink in outer space?
Hey, Aurora, that's one of my favorite things up here. Liquids are really interesting up here, particularly water. So I'm going to get Frank's help here. We actually have some water that we can show you. The interesting thing up here is on Earth, where you have where water and liquids have weight, they obviously conform to the shape of the container that they're in. They fall to the bottom. Up here, they're all weightless. And so, as Frank's showing you, we get these bubbles. The forces are dominated by surface tension, and you can even drink these before they get too far away. And so the water's just beautiful up here. The dominant force at play is surface tension, and it causes the water to find a sort of minimum energy state, which turns out to be a perfect sphere. So if you wait long enough after you form one of these bubbles, all of the energy in the bubble slowly damps out, and you get a just perfect sphere, and it's just an absolute marvelous thing to play around with.
Hi, my name is Mason, and my question is, how is it like in outer space?
Hey, Mason, you know what? It's really cool up here. One of the coolest parts is that we get to look down on the Earth from 250 miles up. Unfortunately, at that altitude, we only get to see about 300 miles, but that's still a really cool perspective. And we get to see all the beautiful blues and greens and browns that make up our wonderful planet. The other cool thing, like we said, is you get to float around all the time, so that's a lot of fun. And really the best thing, though, is that you get to be up here with your friends. So kind of like on Earth, you get to just enjoy everything and anything a lot more when you do it with friends.
Hi, I'm Matthew, and my question is, how do astronauts shower in space?
Hey, Matthew. That's a really important one. We exercise a lot every day. We're sweating, so it's really important to be able to do what we call hygiene, or really showering. So we have a few items for that. One is what Frank's showing here is a hygiene towel. This is a towel. It's got a little bit of soap pre-impregnated into it, and we actually stick it into our water dispenser, which injects hot water into this foil packet, and you get a nice hot towel ready to go. So that's one of the components we use. I typically also use the water dispenser to fill up a bag full of just warm water to use, and I'll usually start with that hygiene towel, and just towel myself off. And then, kind of like we were showing earlier, since the water just sticks to anything, it sticks to yourself. So you can put the water on yourself. It just sticks in place, and you can actually use soap and get a little bit of a lather going. And then I take a dry towel, I wipe all that soap off, and then I usually do another round of sticking the water to myself, kind of making sure that I've cleaned up all the soap, and then toweling that off. So it's not quite as satisfying as a shower on Earth, but it works pretty well, and we stay quite clean up here.
Hi, my name is Naya, and my question is, how do you get rid of trash on a space station?
Hey, Naya. Yeah, that's a great question, because we do generate a fair amount of trash up here because, for instance, we can't really do laundry, and so we will wear the same clothing for a few days, and then you change out, and you have to get rid of that clothing eventually, right? Same thing, our food comes up in these little packets to protect it from radiation, and you create a lot of trash just from all the protection that you use for your food. So what we do is we put all those things in these bags, we keep them really compact, and we store them. And when we get a new cargo spacecraft, like the Cygnus that just came up a few days ago, those cargo spacecraft come up with a lot of science, a lot of supplies, different items like that. So we take that all out, empty it out, and then we fill it back up with all of our trash. And not just anything that we generate, but also some of the science generates trash, or some of the equipment that breaks, and that can be considered trash if it's not going to go back to Earth and get fixed and get flown back up. So all of that stuff that becomes trash gets put back in, for instance, the Cygnus spacecraft. We fill it up as much as we can, close it up, and then those spacecraft don't have a heat shield. And so when they re-enter the atmosphere, they essentially just burn up. And so some of those shooting stars that you might see every once in a while might actually be trash from the ISS.
Hi, my name is Cooper, and my question is, do y'all ever leave the inside of the International Space Station?
Hey, Cooper, we sure do. Let's see. There's really only 2 ways that we do that. Number one, obviously, when we come back home, when we go back to Earth, we get in our spacecraft. So in my case, that is a SpaceX Dragon capsule. Frank flew up actually on a Soyuz spacecraft. But in either case, we get into that spacecraft and we head home. The other time we leave the space station, the inside of the space station, is during spacewalks. And so in that case, in here, we have 1 atmosphere of pressure. We're here in just normal clothing, T-shirts. We can survive easily in here. But out in the vacuum of space, we would not be able to survive. So we actually take our own little spacecraft, which is our spacesuit. And it's a self-contained system that keeps us alive out in the vacuum of space. So to go outside and do that, we get in something called the airlock. Once we're inside the airlock, we close a hatch, and we lower the pressure inside all the way down to vacuum, just like the outside of the space station. And then we open another hatch that takes us outside, and we get to go outside and do our work on our spacewalk.
Hi, my name is Leo, and my question is, when a rocket launches, does it break the sound barrier?
Hey, Leo. Well, you know, when we first launched, we start at 0, right? And it's a really heavy rocket because it takes a lot of rocket fuel to get us to outer space. So you actually start off pretty slow, but very, very quickly, your speed starts picking up. And so the sound barrier and the speed of sound is kind of a complicated question because some of that depends on your density altitude, right? Because how fast air travels depends on how dense the medium through which it's traveling is. And so at sea level, it's about 700 miles per hour. And so we get to that speed pretty quickly. And by the time we leave the atmosphere, we're traveling at about 15,000 miles per hour. So if you just look at the velocity, we're going quite a bit faster than the speed of sound. But the funny thing is, because once you leave our atmosphere, there is no air, outside of the space station, without any air, sound really can't travel. And so it'd be difficult to say that you're breaking the sound barrier in outer space. But you are going way, way faster than the speed of sound at sea level.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lafargue, the proud superintendent of the Calcasieu Parish School System in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We are so excited that you took time out of your day to answer questions from our students here in our school system. In our school system, we preach creativity, innovation, and dreaming. Thank you for giving us the time. Thank you for giving us the possibility and the hope and the dream that our kids maybe one day can be in the International Space Station just like you. So Godspeed, safe travels, and again, Calc-Super School System, Louisiana. Hopefully one day we'll be able to talk to you guys in person. Thanks. Bye.
Well, thank you so much. We just want to say, on behalf of the Expedition 69 crew, it was a wonderful experience getting to talk to the students of the LA STEM program. You know, it wasn't long ago that I was your age, in your shoes, and you know, just think a few years ahead, and your generation really is the future. You're going to be the people that innovate all the technical solutions to all the problems that the world faces. And maybe some of you one day may be up here in our place, in Frank and my place. So it was just a great honor getting to talk to you today, and follow your dreams.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.